better.
Okay. Well, Dr. Revis, I think that, let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I know that 2 students are not going to be with us tonight. Brandon is not going to be with us, and Carrie is not going to be with us. So who else?
But they all have nice ties on.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Revis. Thank you for being observant. Oh, I love it. I love it. Stormy, was that your idea?
I promise this was all Libby. Libby did this whole
Libby
thing.
did this. So Libby, quiet Libby in the corner up there. Okay. Okay, I got it. Dr. Revis, good observation. I might would have picked up. Last week, they, I can't remember what y'all did last week. Dr. Revis was not, because they had to tell me at the very end.
That was the school colors.
School colors, right? The school colors. That's what it was. But
Well, see, you were worried about silly things like checking the roll. I was worried about the important things and seeing what everybody had on.
Well, I was gonna get to it. I knew Josh was up to something when he signed out after he talked to me, so I just didn't know what it was. But anyway, well, let's get started. Hope all of you have had a good week, and welcome back, Dr. Revis, to the real world. Dr. Revis went on a real vacation and didn't want to come back, but she had to. But we're glad to have you back, Dr. Revis. I have looked at several of you have sent the task 1 at least for me to look at. Some of you have not. I encourage you. Time's running out, so I desperately need to see that. Please know that it's okay to reach out to Dr. Revis. It's not bad for you to reach out to Dr. Revis. That's why she's there. Sometimes she can see something that maybe I can't see, or she can give you advice on something that I may not have thought about. I will tell you, Dr. Revis is probably going to, and this is just her nature, Dr. Revis is probably going to be a little more detailed with you. I'm going to be to the point, and I'm not going to, I'm going to tell you, but I'm not going to probably, I'm going to tell you what to do, but I'm not going to tell you everything about how to do it. Dr. Revis is a little more lenient with that. That's a secret I'll tell you about her. But reach out to her. It's time to do that. Stormy, I just sent yours back to you, and a good start. But again, you may want to let Dr. Revis look at it before you send it back to me. I said that, and again, that's not a bad thing. Libby is on a roll. Libby has cleared task 1, 2, and 3. So, you know, great job. There's some others. I got a couple with task 1 and 2. I cannot remember everybody. Task 1 and 2, I've cleared a couple with task 1 and 2. But all of you you need to, Joshua Justice has cleared task 1 and 2. I know that. Anyway, I can't remember. I'll get in trouble if I keep on. But anyway, we've got to get it to me. I'm going to pull up and show you the schedule. And in fact, let me do that now. Let me share the screen and go ahead and get that over with. Dr. Revis, while I'm pulling this up, need to say anything?
No, I'm good. But Rachel, it works when we work together. We can have some work, can't we?
Yeah. Rachel, you have done you've run a marathon, and
Good job, Rachel.
Cleared. So yes.
Thank you.
Here we are. Let me go ahead and get this out of the way. I want to show you. Dr. Revis, I'm looking for the schedule, the CAP guidance discussion, CAP SIAP task and project. It's up there near the top. I've pulled it, and there it is. Let's look at your task stream schedule. Now you've got this same axis. Now look at it. Task 1, 2, and 3. The due date is July the 6th. Now that doesn't mean that you're sending it July the 6th for me to look at it for the first time. July 6th is the drop dead date for it to be completed. Okay? Task 1, 2, and 3. So don't wait until, I'm telling you now, go ahead and let Dr. Revis and me see work so that we can go ahead and get you on the right track and make sure that that you've got plenty of time. Because by July 6th, I need to clear task 1, 2, and 3. And that means that the week of the 4th, you will not be coming online with Dr. Revis and me on the 5th of July. That is built in on purpose that way. However, do not think that you can take that week off. You better be working on 4, 5, and 6. Okay, because you see the drop dead date on that, July 14th. And then,
if I could, excuse me, if I could just say something,
ahead.
Dr. Stedman, if you send your work for me to review in your internship shell, if you don't mind, just shoot me an email and tell me that it's there, because I just don't always go in and look. And it does not prompt me to look for things, okay?
Right. We don't get a message on it. We're supposed to, but for some reason we don't.
I
So we
don't
have to
on
go
that.
in there.
No.
I don't either, Dr. Revis. And then by the 18th, that means that everything with your test evidence work has to be cleared. And by the 18th, that means that you should have your grades posted in Taskstream, that everything is cleared. And then you see what's left. And this is all pretty much Dr. Revis's things that she will be looking at. So go, you need to copy this out, and you need to you just need to be aware of what's ahead for you. Let's look quickly at what tonight's going to look like. I've already, okay. We're going to talk about assignment 5 for just a few minutes. Then I'm going to ask questions about, or Dr. Revis is going to talk to you about your assignment 11, which that's a pretty comprehensive project that you have to work on. So we don't want you waiting until the last minute to be working with your team or your partner with that. And then she's going to talk with you about Taskstream. I'm just going to open up the floor just a little bit about any questions that you would have about anything about the SIAP at this point. And that's how we're going to end tonight. It's going to be very, very informal. But with that in mind, let's talk about your assignment this past week, the Supervisory Behavior Continuum. Let me stop share so that we can look at each other. Again, that was another opportunity for you to do a self review, a self evaluation of yourself. And I'm looking at the book that you read, chapter 9, and I liked what it said. Before you actually even looked at all of the 10 behavior areas. But and please indulge me for just a minute. But it says the supervisor, using collaborative behaviors, wishes to resolve a problem that is shared equally with the teacher. And I don't know who it was. One of you responded about that was on one assignment that was hard for you, that it was hard for you to be able, you realize that that's an area you had to work on, because it was hard for you to tell a peer or a teacher that that they needed to improve in an area. That was a skill, and that is not an easy task to do. It was, I've been doing it for 100 years, and it's still, it's not easy for me to do that. I try to always, somebody talked about the sandwich approach, and I can't remember that, where you talk about something very positive to start with. You always point out something good, then you say, however, and then you always conclude with, something good so that you can leave them on a good note. I can't remember, one of you talked about that. Okay, it was Tracy, and Libby talked about that too. Several did. But anyway, the supervisor encourages the teacher to present his or her own perceptions and ideas. Yet the supervisor also gives his or her own views in an honest and straightforward manner, with the result being a frank exchange of ideas. Now, Dr. Revis, you may have done this before too. I can remember observing classrooms, or even when I met with principals, whenever I was at the superintendent's level and meeting with principals, I tried to set the stage so that it was in as much as a non-threatening environment as possible. But when I was a principal, I would start out with, something very positive, but many times I would say, okay, Tracy, tell me how you felt about your lesson. Tell me what you thought. And many times that opened the door for me to be able to move into an area without me having to be very, just direct with it, because they already knew, that, and with this pointed out, you look at the positives and you look at the negatives, or I don't like to use that negative word, but the areas that are not your strengths. And when you talk about I do that with my staff now with communities and schools. I say, okay, let's talk about all of the positive things that you've accomplished this year. I'm doing my summative reviews right now. And so, that's what the way I start with. And I'll say, okay, now let's think about the year. All of this is good. And I appreciate all you do. Okay. And I've got a lot of my people are veteran people that have retired and come back to work, after retirement. But there's always room for growth and improvement. And so I always say to them, okay, let's talk about, what do you feel like you need to improve on this year? What is something, let's look at one or two things that that we can work on. I says, and I'll help you with that, and I'll encourage you in that area. But I always give them an opportunity to talk about that. And if it's not what I think it is, I accept what they say, and I'll say, okay, have you thought about so-and-so? And then that's how I get it in there. But it's not always what you say, is how you say it. How you come across things. Dr. Revis, comments on that?
Right. I think we are ourselves, this group sitting here. I think the reason we are where we are is because we've always been strong, reflective practitioners. And we have to encourage our teachers or our staff to become strong, reflective practitioners. What I have found many times is that when I'm working with a teacher who really practices those reflective practices, they are much more able to give me a good assessment of what they feel like they need to work on. But with people who don't practice that, sometimes they just have a hard time even talking about what they felt like they needed to work on, let alone what they felt like went well. Sometimes they'll tell you that, well, I just can't really think of anything. I thought it went pretty well. And so that's when I feel like it's the hardest. Some of my best teachers were always much harder on themselves than I was. But again, I think it goes back to just getting down to really be strong, reflective practitioners.
I agree. Now, with that in mind, let's just talk for just a very few minutes about the assignment. Who would like to just, and anybody have at it? Who would like to talk? What did this particular assignment, how did it, as an aspiring administrator, how can you take this and put it in your toolkit and use it as an administrator with teachers? Somebody talk to me about that. What did you learn from this?
Well, I was the one that said I have a hard time, especially with veteran teachers, being that I'm not technically a veteran teacher, being able to tell a teacher, hey, you need to improve this, is what I saw, because what I would be doing, especially I come from a band background, which, band teachers don't get enough credit for what we actually have to do in our classes. But I can understand, we also don't have the pressure of like the test subject either. So, just coming from that and trying to tell a teacher, hey, this is what you need to improve on, or this is what I'm seeing. So, a lot of the stuff that we're reading, I've already read because I've done leadership stuff before through churches and ministry and things like that. So a lot of this stuff I know how to deal with, but it really caused me to reflect back and say, all right, well, just because you've been in leadership for so long, you still have a lot of areas that need to improve on, such as being able to communicate to these teachers. And I've always been told, even for my principals, we don't ever say negatives. We always say room for improvement.
Mhm.
And so that's what I got from this lesson, is this will help me have ways to open that dialogue up, open that discussion up, and to do my job, even in my areas of weakness. And the more I do it, the better I'll get at it.
Thanks, Josh. Anything different than what Josh has said from anybody?
I think if I remember correctly, I wrote something about, how relationships are really important to be able to have these types of conversations. So when you, work on listening with your people and you are encouraging them and you spend time with them and you have empathy to understand them as just humans, not just as teachers, I feel like, when you have those tough conversations, it could be easier. So, and just like Tracy and Josh, I wrote in there too that I have a hard time, telling my husband, you did the laundry wrong, because, he's an adult, and so when I think about, having to not boss someone, but like point out a flaw or something that they could improve upon, I will struggle with that. But I really feel like, because I am an empathetic person and my listening and everything is one of my stronger skills, I feel like I should be able to do that with success. So like it talks on that, when I read about that continuum of, it makes sense that you should listen first, so you can seek to understand what's going on. So you can listen to the teacher that is reflecting to you, and then you can then explain, like, this is what I hear you saying. Am I understanding you correctly? So I feel like the whole conversation can be structured around, I don't know, it's structured around getting your employee to tell you what you want them to say. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Right. And, and as all of you were pointing out your strengths, you said you readily recognize them, but most of you said, I already knew that probably was an area that I needed to work on with. Most of the time we are aware of those areas that we struggle with, and, that we have to do a little bit more with. I think, Rachel, you talked about you value yourself in being a great listener. And, I thought about that when you said that, being a minister's wife, that kind of goes with the territory anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes back to Josh being a minister, that comes with the territory, with that. So those are skills. Anybody else?
One thing I picked up, and this is along the lines with what was being said, is, making it an inquiry-based conversation, sort of asking questions instead of directly going with inputs may help make it a more smoother process.
Right. Great, Nazmul. And I love to read Nazmul's work. Now, Nazmul, he gets deep into it. You are a philosopher. You can be a philosopher. You write philosophically.
Thank you, Dr. Stedman.
You are welcome. Anybody else?
But I just want to just echo what Nazmal said. I think a lot of the conversations we have, it is more about the art of questioning than anything else. And, you know, it would be easy if you just told everybody what to do, just tell them what to do and do it. But, you know, it's about asking those questions so that you get that buy-in, that they own it. And they'll make a commitment to trying something new or different.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Revis. Let me point one thing out. Anybody else before I move on to the next? I don't know. Everything seems to be going crazy tonight, Dr. Revis, on this screen. Everybody, there's some of your voices are slurred. And it's not showing a loose connection on my end. So I don't know if it's just in the network tonight or what. But let me see. Let me pull this up. That's what I want. Okay, let's. Okay. Just a reminder, your assignment for next week is you're talking, many of you have completed this already, but it's dealing with, you know, what is servant leadership. I want you to look under week 6 and make sure this video on servant leadership is directly the author of Northouse of the book. That is him speaking. It's just, and he talks directly. I mean, he talks very. I mean, this is a great video to watch. So take time to look at that. And this is another more of a cartoon-like video of characteristics of servant leadership, and it just points out the 10 areas, and it helps you better understand it. So make sure you spend the time this week to look at that, even if you have completed the writing assignment. Go back and look at that. And I found this last year, and it's an article on servant leadership during difficult times, and this was dealing with you know, COVID issues. And while, you know, we're dealing with post-COVID, that we're still dealing with a lot of the residuals from it. And, you know, and everybody's still, you know, many people are still with the question mark in your mind. What is it going to look like in the fall when school starts back? You know, is it going to rise its ugly head again? You know, and this article really speaks to you personally. So spend the time, take the time to look at these videos and to read this article, and then we're going to talk about it next week. Dr. Revis, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to turn it over to you at this point to go ahead and introduce assignment 11 to them. That is your last assignment that you will do the last night of class.
Okay, I think I've got it pulled up. Can you see it on my screen?
Yes, yes, I
Okay.
can.
So this is a team assignment where you're going to work in Zoom teams. And each Zoom team will have a different digital competency to work on. So what you're going to do is you're going to pretend that your Zoom team is a PLC at your school, and you are going to look at data from your most recent North Carolina Teacher Working Conditions Survey data. I think that came out in May. NC report card data, advanced ed data, Cognia data, or any other data sets that you feel like are necessary to look at through the lens of whichever digital competency that your team is working on. Okay, so you're going to be, so the first thing that comes to mind, for example, team 1, we have Nazmal, Hannah, Jasmine, and Kendall. Well, you guys decide whose school you're going to pull the data sets from, because this is not going to make sense if you pull one data set from Hannah's school, one from Kendall's, and one from Nasble's. That's not going to make sense. So decide whose school you're going to pull your data from. Again, most recent North Carolina Teacher Working Conditions Survey data, NC report card data, advanced ed Cognia data, or any other data sets that you and your team feel like you need to examine in order to address your digital competency. So you're examining the data through the lens of the digital competency you are working on. So
And remember, you're looking at this as an administrator.
yes, thank you, Dr. Stedman. You're looking at it as an administrator. These digital competencies are competencies that school leaders have or are being held accountable for too. And so you need to become very familiar with them. So you look at the competency and look at the language of the competency. And what you're going to do after you've examined your data is you're going to brainstorm and make recommendations to the school improvement team on strategies for improvement, showing improvement and gains in your school data through that digital competency. And then after you do that, your team is going to build a presentation through any media that you choose, but it needs to be one in which you're going to share a 25-minute presentation via Zoom on your assigned night, and you'll share with the whole group. You can decide who's going to do what pieces of the presentation, but we need to get a good feel for your data, how you analyze the data, what areas that you feel like needed to be improved upon according to your data, your recommendations to address those gains or needs.
Dr. Revis, I'd like to consider this. This is because it's about we will start at 6 o'clock on that night. It takes about 2 hours for us to get everybody grouped. This is basically what I consider your final exam for 605. Okay.
So any questions on that? So it's something you cannot wait and start looking at in week 10. You've got to organize yourselves, decide which data sets, which school you're going to pull the data sets from, and start doing some analysis and doing the analysis and recommendations before then.
And it doesn't matter that it's somebody else's school that you're working with. The process and the concepts is what's important, because they're applicable in any leadership situation. That's what you're focusing on, but you've got to have a data set to work with to be able to go through the activities. And again, did everybody see their assignments? There's 6 competencies, and
there are 5 competencies.
I mean 5, and there's 5 teams.
Yeah. Which works out real nicely. So each team.
When I went back and I had to do some rearranging, I set the teams up so that there would be. I remember last year we had one group that had to do 2, and that was a little difficult for them to have to do. But this worked out nicely. Who's going to do what. What we can do, you look at this week. Go ahead and try to get with your Zoom team and go ahead and start mapping this out, looking at it, and then next week, whatever questions you have, you can ask Dr. Revis and me at that point. We'll say, are there any questions about assignment 11? And then you can ask us at that time after you've had time to look at it and then to talk together as a team. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Revis. Dr. Revis, while you're there, you want to go ahead and just move into any task stream things that you want to talk about at this point?
Yes, I sure can. let me first go back to Anara Henderson's competency folio, and you've got this. You were shown this back in 601. Just want to remind you what your final competency folio needs to look at like. Now, guys, it says that this is due on the 25th, but really and truly, it needs to be fully evaluated and ready by the 25th. So at this point in the game, you should have, you shouldn't have that much to do. You should only have at most 12 competencies that you are trying to work with. Remember that each competency, let's look at communication. Each competency has to have
Okay.
3
We
evidence.
can't see it, Dr. Revis.
Okay, I'm gonna have to do a new share. I'm sorry. Thanks for telling me that.
There you
Can
go.
you see it
Yes.
now? So, for example, communication says 3 evidences one from the APSL, one from SIAP, and one from open-ended. Now, some instructors are very strict on this. And by golly, when they look down through here, they better see one from the APSL, one open-ended, and one SIAP. I tend not to be that strict, but I do, because you may already have 3 competencies already for communication. What I would not want to see is 2 open-ended. Okay, you need to pull 2. You need to stay with this if you can. It makes it easier.
It
But
does.
if you didn't, I'm not going to make you go back and redo it. All right. But notice as well how she has put digital learning, because remember that digital learning competency that's down here, we don't have anything for that. Okay. It's all blended in with the other competencies. But as your evaluator of your folio, I have to see it noted where you are using digital learning competencies.
And Dr. Revis, it will be in 18 of the 21 competencies. Digital learning is embedded in them.
Okay. And so then when you go like, let's go to creative thinking. You should have one from the APSL, and one open-ended. Well, look how easy this. I love the way the format she used. And the reason I love it is because it makes it easy on me. And it's not all about me, I get that. But it does make it very self-explanatory because she labels it APSL, APTL, open-ended, and there's her digital. And then look down here at her file attachments. Well, by golly, they're labeled the same way. So when I'm looking at this, if you will put summer 2022, I don't have to go back through and figure out which ones you've already done. I know which one is summer 2022. And I can look at it, you label where it came from, note if it's digital, and then you label it the same way down here. So, I don't mean to be much of a stickler, but this has got to be pretty right. You got to be able to see distinctly that you've pulled your evidences or artifacts from 2 of your 6 competencies, and that one is open-ended, which means comes from your clinical internship hours. Now, let me stop and see if there are any questions.
Dr. Revis, I would encourage all of you to go into your competency folio and do an inventory yourself. And just make sure, see where you are and map it out. Say, this is where I am and this is what I've got to do. You need to do that sooner than later. Okay.
And guys, if you didn't set it up like this, don't go back and start recreating it. The only thing I'm asking you to do is for this semester, make sure you label it summer 2022. Tell me where it came from, and then upload your artifact with that same naming label. Okay. So that it's, very easy for me to to look at. Now, there's one more thing I want to share. I don't believe I've got it pulled up here. Let me see if I can find it. I think I've closed everything out. I was going to just show you in Taskstream to be sure you've got, you know what is due in Taskstream, but I can wait and do that maybe next week, if you don't mind, Dr. Stedman.
Okay, that'll be good. Yeah.
Since I've closed everything out by
Yeah,
mistake. I'm
that's okay.
sorry.
That's okay. We've given them a lot already anyway. But we're just telling you this, you know, we don't want any surprises. So that's why we're constantly reminding you now, so that, you know, at the very end, I don't want anybody struggling and saying, help, 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 you know, talk me off the ledge. You know.
Yeah, and on that competency folio, for some reason, it gives some people fits, and it shouldn't. You should not be having to create new stuff. You should have all of your artifacts. It's just a matter of putting them together in a logical, coherent way. Now, if you want me to look at some, that's fine. I'll be glad to do that. But you know, you can request comments from me, and I'll look at it and give you my feedback. Right until you request comments, I can't see anything.
That's right. Do any questions about your competency folio requirements at this point? And you know, with your internship log, you know that you're working on your last 80 hours. Now, and then you're going to, Dr. Revis will tell you later on about combining all of them into one final document to be submitted for a final evaluation. All you've done at this point is submitted them for review each semester. Dr. Revis will be the one to tell you everything looks good. You've got all 400 plus hours in there, and because yours is 400 hours, 80 hours a semester, right? So that would be 44, a minimum of 400 hours. And she'll tell you when it's ready to go in for evaluation and the process there. Last week, I inundated you with everything that you needed to know about the SIAP. Are there any questions at this point that anybody need any clarity on, or are you okay? Now's the time to ask. If you've got any questions at all about any of it. And if it's something that you need to know individually, then by all means, call me. And if for some reason I don't answer the phone, send me a text message and say, Dr. Stedman, this is Nasmal. Please call me first chance you get, and make sure you leave a number to call. And if you're working, let me know if, you know, when it's okay to call, if I call back, because if I call you and you're in class, you know, it's not going to do any good. Just let me know if for some reason it's not where I can answer the phone when you do call. Or the best thing to do is just send me a text message and say, Dr. Stedman, please give me a call when you can at the following times. And then I'll let you know if none of those work, and we'll work out something. Okay. Any questions? Again, I can't stress enough in that helpful hints document where I have said, this must be there, this must be there, this must be there. Make sure that you that it's there with the headings clearly identified. Be careful when you're submitting work for us to look at that you've taken out any unnecessary stuff, like if you copied and pasted something, when you copied and pasted it, we don't need to see the task and rubric directions built in there from a previous task. Stormy, I'm going to pick on you. Stormy doesn't care. I sent back for her task 1, and it was an oversight on her part. But when you introduced it up there, you had your the school schedule was there, the bell schedules and all that, but then you also had it at another place down later on. So that it really didn't need to be up there at the top anyway. So find a way of deleting that and putting it at the bottom, because it'll be a much smoother reading. So just be careful. Those are little things that y'all need to be careful of. I'm trying to think. Melissa, did you understand what I was telling you when I sent yours back?
Yes, I'm working on tweaking it and finalizing it.
Okay.
I should have it to you by
Okay.
tomorrow.
Okay, but you saw what I was talking about, didn't you?
Yes, thank
Okay,
you.
Good. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else? Dr. Revis?
Well, I just think that's some sound advice that you gave them a moment ago, to go in and check on their competency folio and see where you
Yes.
are. And again, if you want me to review one, you will have to put something in there, request comments, and I'll be glad to look at it and say, yes, this looks fine. Your formatting, whatever, looks fine. And again, I'm not going to be a stickler, but boy, it sure would be nice, because you've got so many artifacts in there now. If you don't label it so I can get it, it's going to be forever for me to do that. And we've got such a short turnaround time.
Right. And Libby, Rachel, and Tracy have already turned in their next case study, their case study 3. Did an excellent job, but I watched that while I was when I got to work one morning. That's my best time before anybody comes in to look at things sometime. And I just laughed at the 3 of them, with the dynamics of the 3 of you talking about the whole scenario of that case study. That was good though. Anyway, any questions? I do pay attention. I do read everything that y'all send me. You figured that out, did you? I pay attention to everything. Libby, you have a question?
I just, you guys were talking about our competency folio. And so at the end of last semester, I thought I should share with you guys what I did, because it might be helpful, because it really helped me. So what I did, I went and I created a T-chart on a notebook piece of paper, and I wrote down all of the competencies on the left-hand side of the T-chart. And on the right-hand side, like I wrote down if it was for open-ended, if it was for APTIL, if it was for APSOL. And then when I finished it, I made an annotation, like I crossed it out that I finished it for that semester, for that evidence. And then I made a new T-chart with everything that I have left for this semester. And so now I know exactly what I have to finish. So I don't know, like sometimes if I get a little anxious about things that I have to do, I like to write it down, because I get it out of my brain and onto a piece of paper, and I know that I'm going to be able to check it off. So
that does help.
it takes a little bit of time to do that, but I tell you what, it's really, it's almost therapeutic to do it.
Right. And I think, Stormy, I think you were just holding that up. That's what you were doing.
Well, I also did it at the end of last semester, but I literally just scrolled through. I was like, where the heck is this paper? And I found it. So yeah, it's awesome.
Okay, great.
Good ideas. And guys, this kind of thing is what you're going to use a lot in school leadership, organizing and planning. You have got to be able to organize and plan huge projects. And so this is just a real good example of that kind of planning.
Okay. And I knew tonight was going to be more what this is, because sometimes you just have to do this kind of stuff, but it was important. Everybody feeling good about where you are? You know what you've got to do. And Rachel, I don't like the way that you're looking.
I just know I've got some work to do. So
Okay, but you will. Look what you've
I
already
will
done,
finish it.
and you will. You're going to
Yes.
finish well. You have no choice. You've got us.
Right. I appreciate you all so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. Jasmine, call me soon so I can give you some directions about what to do about that class. I've been thinking about it. Just call me one day, okay?
Will do.
Okay.
You know how we have that strengths-based leadership task that we have to do in a couple weeks?
Uh-huh.
Well, my team talked about it a little bit the other day, and we were wondering about the Zoom piece of that. So we know exactly how we're supposed to answer the questions and respond, but then there's that Zoom piece that we have to record. Would you be able to talk to us about that a little bit?
All you're going to do, you're going to do it no differently than you've done your case studies. It's no different. You're just going to, you're going to carry out the process just like if it was a case study, and take each of those areas and you know, you're going to respond. Let's see, you're with Libby, you're with Tracy and with Rachel. So when it comes to, you know, there, I've got all of those areas listed, like a leader versus a manager. Okay, let's use that as an example. It doesn't mean that all three of you have to go down the list and respond to every little thing, but everybody needs to equally participate. And let's say that with a leader versus a manager, you and Rachel may respond to that one, and Tracy may say, well, you've said every, you know, pretty much it said, but then the next time Tracy and Rachel may respond more to something, and Libby, you take the back seat, you know, on it. You don't have to, everybody doesn't have to, or, you know, somebody may say something and Libby may say something profound, and then Rachel may think, you know, she may have one little nugget that she wants to add to what you've said. It doesn't mean that everybody's got to go down and just one by one, all three people or all five people in the team. It's a scholarly discussion. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, I get it now. I was, you know, panicking a little bit because I was wondering about the guidance for the discussion, but now that I know that we're just going to talk about how we reflected and responded, I feel like we got this.
Okay, and remember, you've got to take the assessment yourself. I want in your team, you need to talk to each other about what that assessment, what your personal assessment and what it says to you. You know, talk about it, share with each other. Okay. Everybody got it? That really is a good book. You know, I don't know how many of you have been able to get into it. There's a lot of good nuggets in that book, a lot. Okay, Dr. Revis, can you close us out? Close us out, Dr. Revis.
I'm good. Just reach out to us if you need us. Okay.
Okay, and I'm giving you 10 minutes tonight, so use it wisely.
Hey, remember that Dr. Lamb said these classes would go about an hour and a half. I think we may have gone one night, an hour and a half.
We don't need an hour and a half. We're getting what we need to accomplish accomplished and moving forward. So,
and you guys have been really very well prepared too. So we appreciate that. Even down to some type of clothing.
Right. I love the ties, guys. But Dr. Revis, I honestly, I like their conversations probably better than any class that I've had.
I agree.
You really are great. You verbalize well, and you know what you're talking about. I can tell that you've grown so much over the last year and a half, and it's obvious. So,
and I appreciate you being candid and being honest about things. We all have areas that we can grow in, and you know, when you stop growing, I just can't even imagine that. I'm old. I'm an old woman, and I still think I grow and learn every day. So just be that lifelong learner. And I appreciate, how you've just shared things that you don't, you're not inhibited about that. Of course, you've been together for 5 semesters now, and you know each other real well. You don't know us that well, but I do appreciate you being able to share and feeling comfortable with that.
And that's right, Dr. Revis. Joshua and I were talking at the very beginning. Joshua Rodriguez and I were talking. And I told him, that, I can't believe it, but it's been 10 years since I've retired from public education, but I haven't stopped. I literally have not stopped. And I told Josh that I am working probably as much or more now than I have ever done in my life, but enjoying every minute of it. And I don't mind telling anybody, this coming Saturday, I will reach my 66th birthday. And I'm celebrating 66 proudly. I was able to call last week, Dr. Revis, and sign up for my Social Security, and I'll get my full Social Security check in November. And guess
All
what?
right.
I can work and make all the money I want right on, and I'm gonna keep right on working.
Got to keep that mind going, mind and body. Got to keep it going.
That's it. That's it. Thank you guys so much.
Have a good week.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Dr. Stedman, I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
About your feedback.
Mhm.
So I went and looked, and the only place that I have the master schedule is at the beginning and then under my figures.
Okay.
So are you saying
okay,
maybe
okay,
just
okay.
reference it?
Okay. And again, my bad.
It's okay.
Take just you will just okay. And I was probably looking at it too quickly then, so you're okay then. And
So leave it.
Just leave it there and just well, no, take it out. Take the figure. You're going to just combine all those figures at the end anyway.
Mhm.
I don't know. Is where you've got it, is that the most appropriate place you can put that? And why is it there? I'm
Okay.
just asking. It just seems to be overpowering at the beginning of, because that is task one. It seems to overpower your work. And I'm not, just look at it. And if it needs to stay, then we won't qualm over it, but just look at it. And then, and if you can rearrange it. And if it's not needed, if it really is not needed, then
Okay.
take it out.
Okay, I can do that.
I don't know that it's needed in what you're doing,
Okay.
because that really
Thank
is
you.
not I really don't know that you need that.
Okay.
So just look
Consider
at that.
it deleted.
Okay. And you
Thank
saw on the number, the sentence you started with a number.
Yeah, I already fixed that one.
Okay.
Now I just need to go in and write more.
But yeah, and where you're just go back and put some narrative work in there and you'll be okay. It's organized well, so that that part is not a problem. It's just that when you scroll down, you've got a lot of narrative at the end, and then you've got things for me to see, but there's a very little narrative down there with them.
Okay.
So just do
Thank
that and you'll be good to go.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for bringing that to my attention then.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Jasmine, you have a question?
Yeah, just when would you prefer for?
Okay, well, let's just, what I would do, Kendall, hold on. I would just go ahead, if I were you, I'm going to keep on. I think you need to reach out to Dr. Lamb yourself again.
Okay.
And just say, Dr. Lamb, I know Dr. Stedman has spoken with you. However, I wanted to speak with you myself because, we're getting close to the end of the semester and I need to be able to move forward and begin making plans for next semester. And I think that will prompt him because he's been dealing with a million other things, but I think that will prompt him.
Okay.
Okay.
That works.
Just let me know. Keep me posted on that. Okay.
Okay.
He doesn't have to know that I know that you're calling him. Just call me and tell me afterwards. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Kendall?
Yes, I turned my task one in. I put a note in there, but I just wanted to let you know that the references, I have them. I just wanted to go ahead and submit it because I know you said you wanted it by this week. So
Yeah,
I wanted to submit that.
And the references are okay because you're going to put those at the end
Okay.
of anyway. So I'm not so much worried about that or the appendices until the very end when you put it all together. Thanks, Kendall.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.